So America's going to the polls in November to say yes to socialism or no to socialism. Anyone affiliated with Obama, we all know, will clearly, well, let's put it another way. Let me rephrase the question. Anyone who he is campaigning for who does not get reelected will not get reelected because he's too closely tied to the president. Let's put it to you that way. So again, I ask you, why do you suppose there's going to be a tidal wave that's coming in 2 weeks? It's not so much because there's going to be new voters at all. It's because the silenced majority, who I have defined for 16 years, Agnew called you the silent majority, but under the socialist communist media that we have, the government media complex, you have become silenced. The silenced majority has not voted in a long time. The silenced majority listen to the Savage Nation and other conservative talk shows. The silenced majority have created small groups, grassroots groups called Tea Party groups, and the silenced majority is going to come out as armies across the land. It's freaking out the members of the self-appointed Arista at the New York Times and elsewhere. They're part of the old guard. They're frightened to death of you. They call you names. They really, the reason they call you Nazis and whatnot is because they actually think you are. But you have to understand that they're mentally ill. The reason people like Maureen Dowd would call Sarah Palin and Engel and the others names is because she's afraid of them. She calls them the mean girls from high school, the kind of girls who spray painted your locker, etc., because she's afraid of them. Because people like Maureen Dowd and the other old-timers from the New York Times are frightened of real American women. They never meet them. They never run into them. They don't know what they look like. Most of these women are not mothers, the leftists now. They never got married, or if they did, they didn't have children, or their husbands left them for another man. So they don't like women who are real women with children and grandmothers. They hate them, as a matter of fact. To them, an American grandmother is a fascist. To them, an American grandfather is a neo-Nazi. That's to show you how mentally deranged they really are. And so the armies of America are going to come out in 2 weeks, and they're going to throw the bums out. Now, that doesn't mean all will be well. I've warned you that many of the Republicans are snakes in sharkskin suits. If they still sell sharkskin, it's just a nice turn of phrase. Many of them are the same old Bushites, the K Street mob, and they would be another disaster waiting to happen. The only hope that I see on the horizon would be the Tea Party candidates who are business people and conservative. Because we are in the last days of America. If we don't throw them out in 2 weeks, then Obama says, aha, although it was close, we only lost 15 seats, and that's, the word I want to use is collateral damage. In other words, we'll keep pushing our socialist agenda, and it doesn't matter because we'll only lose another 15 seats next time, and it's worth it for us to see our communist dreams realized. Do you understand that? So to them, losing seats, if it's too small, would be collateral damage. It would be worth what they did to this country. In other words, well, turn it around. It would be worth their losing the 15 seats for what they could get away with in terms of ripping off the country and ripping off our democracy. You don't seem to understand how they think I do. You're very fortunate that you have a man like Michael Savage in America able to understand the enemy and explain them to you, by the way, which is why trickle-up poverty is so popular. Eric, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Michael, you're the man. I mean, nobody else is dealing with the real problem. Everybody's talking about the Tea Party, talking about the election, but you're the only one who's giving the Republicans a strategy for winning. They should hire you as the person to develop a counter strategy. You're the man who can help them. I don't know why.
When you mean my 37 points for a new America, but the point is the Republicans hate me. The Republican Party wants nothing to do with me. That is because I am the Tea Party of the American radio airwaves. They want nothing to do with the Tea Party. They're afraid of the Tea Party. They're afraid of true conservatives. You know that.
Not just on the Tea Party. They're going to lose key seats. You're telling them what to do, and they should be listening.
Okay, so let's boil it down to 3 points that you think I wrote that should be done. Do you remember any of them off the bat? I don't want to put you on the spot. In just pull it out of your mind. What any of the things I said that stick in your mind?
Okay. Yeah, what you said to the listeners. You said they ought to be out there at the polling places dealing with the people who are going to be threatening people. They ought to be.
You're saying an actual strategy for election day, which is that we should have the equivalent of the Cubans in the white shirts at every polling place to counter the Black Panthers with batons, for example, or the guys with the Coke bottle glasses from NYU who are threatening a lawsuit.
Yeah, they need to be out there.
Well, where are the armies that we need? Where are the armies of American conservatives who are going to guard the polls from these dangerous factions? I don't know where they are, but I know you're getting a copy of Trickle Up Poverty. Thank you for the call, 1-800-4. I have studied Hitler's rise from the time he was a mere corporal in World War I, and somewhat of a war hero, by the way, and how when the National Socialists first emerged on the scene in Germany, which remember was a democracy during the Weimar Republic, how he was in bed with all the industrialists. The rich of the country loved him. The rich liked what they were hearing. The rich loved it. You didn't know that Hitler was a back-to-nature man, did you? Many of you don't even know. You're so ignorant of history, I can't blame you. I blame the education system. He was a vegetarian. He didn't drink. He was a back-to-nature movement guy. But more than that, he was anti-capitalist, so they thought. The socialists who were aligned with Hitler, the National Socialists, were against private property and ownership, but Hitler didn't go for that right away. As a matter of fact, it led to a big fight within the Nazi Party itself. And so soon after Hitler aggrandized a great deal of power to himself and established his dictatorship, his original thugs, his supporters, the brown shirts under Ernst Röhm, the street fighter, and he had a big fight because Ernst Röhm was a diehard socialist, and they fought. And he said to Hitler, how could you be doing business with all these capitalists when we are supposed to be such pure socialists? But Hitler was far smarter than Ernst Röhm. He knew that he continued to need the big capitalists to advance the Nazi agenda. And so he never outright attacked the big capitalists. He worked with them. So Ernst Röhm and the other diehard socialists in the SA, the brown shirts, rebelled. As a result, they were exterminated in the Night of the Long Knives, which you should study one day. When Hitler's SS lay in wait for the SA, who were in a male bacchanalia on a certain lake in Germany with each other. The SA, as you see, were oriented in that direction, studied, it's historical. And the SA leadership were having fun with their boyfriends on a certain lake in Bavaria. The SS lay in wait for them, killed most of them, arrested some of the others, including Ernst Röhm, who was later executed. It's a fact of history. It's a fact of history. I'm not embroidering. I'm not inventing. I'm giving you a fact of history. What does it have to do with Obama? Everything and nothing. Everything, because it's quite telling to study how Hitler rose to power using, although he said he was a socialist, he used the capitalists to get to power. Okay? And his socialist buddies were very mad at him because he didn't impose his socialism fast enough, so he had them killed. But then, of course, after he had total power, there was another story, which we're not going to have to give you a whole history lesson right now. And I don't really cover this in my book. I touch on it, but it's irrelevant. What's relevant to this discussion is Obama's Marxist socialist roots and why I define him as not a socialist. That's baby talk. You've heard the word, hey, Obama's a socialist. It doesn't mean anything anymore. When I was talking about socialism in radio 10 years ago, nobody had used the word in talk radio that I know of. Nobody had used it. They didn't even know what the word meant. Then all of a sudden they were all, socialist, schmotionalist. Well, there are quite a number of varieties of socialist. You have to define what you're talking about. This nation has been somewhat socialist since the 1960s. Okay? So what variety of it? How virulent is the socialism? I define Obama as a pan-Leninist. That's something you haven't heard about. The golfer doesn't know what the word means. If you say pan-Leninist to the golfer, he'd have to look it up because he hasn't seen it anywhere. If you said it to a wall-banger, he would get embarrassed and angry and fire somebody. If you said it to the leprechaun, he probably the words pan-Lenin, the phrase pan-Leninist to understand it. And then you'll understand Obama when he says we didn't do this just to elect a man. So I want you to play that whole soundbite now, and you'll understand what I mean when I say pan-Leninist if you listen to that soundbite again. Beowulf, please.
If you are out there knocking on doors and making phone calls, talking to your friends and neighbors, if you do not give up hope, then I guarantee you that not only are we going to win this election, because this was never just about putting a president in the White House. It was about building a movement for change that lasted for a long time. We will build
Okay, there you go. Building a movement for change that lasts a long time. Now, does that definitively prove he's a pan-Leninist? Of course not. But he certainly gives away an intimation of what I am talking about. And the rest you have to, study to get to the bottom of it. So when you look at the adulation of 1/3 of the population that gave Hitler the power in Germany, and you hear what I just said? The adulation of 1/3 of the population that brought Hitler to power. And you look at the adulation of the 1/3 of the American population that brought Obama to power. You say, well, all right, that doesn't prove anything either, does it? You got to understand that most Germans did not even go along with the crude imagery of the early Nazi Party. They didn't even like the anti-Semitism of the early Nazi movement at all. Most Germans were quite polite. They did not go along with the crude images that Hitler was putting out there. Nor were they likely to become involved in or approve of physical violence directed at individual Jews and their property. Did you understand any of this? There was a very small fringe in the Nazi movement that was anti-Semitic to this degree. What does it have to do with Obama? It's only a small fringe within the Obama inner circle. This small fringe, labor camps. I know the leftists, you don't. Many of you don't understand how the leftist thinks. So the radical university Lexist, most of them are maniacs. You think you hear electric cars, you hear Obamacare. These are just minor details to them. They would like to have a complete and total socialist revolution in America, where masses of people were taken out, put into re-education camps, worked to death, and then executed, along the lines of the Red Brigades in Cambodia or the Red Communist Chinese in China. This is very serious business that we're talking about. You got to understand this. The misery that is felt by society today is directly related to the pacifism that is rampant in our military today, the internationalism that is rampant in our political class today, and the rot that is set in Washington. You understand what I'm saying to you? I don't have to go into a tirade right now to make my point. I don't have to do that at all. We know that the decayed old political system in America is cracking right now. We know that we have to build a new America, built on the fundamental values that built America. We know we have to build America based on the basis of achievement, strength, will, struggle, freeing the genius of the individual personality. But you don't hear any of this rhetoric coming from any of the politicians, do you? You hear it in crude form, but not really in the way I just put it to you. How can the strength of the nation be improved, is the question. Do you think Obama can rescue the common strength of the nation? I don't. I think that he has ruined the nation in the 2 years he's been in power. And I believe the only thing that can save America will be to select the best Americans irrespective of their race or their sex or their sexual orientation, based on their achievement, their strength, their will, their ability to struggle, their ability to work, so we can free the genius of the individual personality. That's what we need in America. And the only way we can do that in order to increase the material value of the individual is to increase the moral and spiritual value of the individual first. The moral and the spiritual value of the individual has almost died in this country. Has almost died in this country. That is why we have such social misery, such anxiety, and such division in this country.